Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi, and I'll be your host. And in this episode, we're going to talk to Krystin Turner about traveling to Walt Disney World with children during COVID. Boy, these titles get longer and longer.
You make a good acronym.
What? I don't know what it would stand for. I am joined via the internet by Client Services Manager, Kevin, for Dreams Unlimited Travel, Kevin Close. You guys say hi for the people who are
Hi,
listening.
everybody. Sorry.
And agent for Dreams Unlimited Travel, Krystin Turner.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Welcome. Thanks for being here for this show. Thank you, everybody home, for joining us. So a couple weeks ago, we did a show where we talked about traveling to Walt Disney World during COVID. And it was very popular. We got a lot of really good feedback from it. One of the things we got a lot of is people wanted to know what it would be like traveling with kids. And specifically, Krystin had mentioned that she, since going with the group of agents and doing the show, she had already been once with her children and that they were planning a second trip. So I thought this would be a really great time to talk to Krystin after being there twice now, right? Am I right? Twice with your kids?
Okay. Yes, I've been twice. Mm-hmm.
And find out what kind of challenges she faced, what went easy, what went wrong, and what kind of advice she can give to our listeners and viewers. So, all right, Krystin, I'm going to start with, sorry. Again, I apologize. This is me messing things up. I'm going to start with, tell us your family dynamic. How many kids, ages, that sort of stuff, and who all went this time.
So the first trip was towards the beginning of December, and I went with my husband, and then I have 4 children. The oldest is 11, and then 9, 7, and 2. So 2-year-old is probably the hardest obstacle when it comes to this COVID situation. Basically because they do have to wear a mask. As a 2-year-old and on the plane and in the parks. I am not a Florida resident, so this was a true Disney trip. We got on a plane, the Magical Express, everything. So it wasn't just an easy in the car trip. We did go to the airport and have a full on trip.
Before you start with airport stuff, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of preparation did you do with the kids? Did you talk to them about having to wear a mask and staying away from people and all that stuff? Or were you okay with, they knew enough from going to school that we didn't have to worry about that? Yeah,
so they have been in school since August full time. They did start virtual Wednesdays a little bit right before Christmas, but they've been in school full time with masks, all the older 3. So they are completely fine with wearing masks. I know before school started, everybody thought that was going to be difficult, but they've really adapted and wore their mask no problem at school. So when they knew that they were going to have to wear them the whole time at Disney, and they were totally fine with that, they've already been to where they know what kind of masks they like and what they're comfortable with. So if you have, children that are not used to wearing masks because they're not in school, that would be something that you definitely need to help prepare them for. Find the right mask that makes them comfortable. We were fortunate enough to go when it wasn't hot. I know that with the mask and it being hot, that it's a lot different, but it was pretty cool when we went. So we never had the hot mask problem. But they knew that, and they've been used to that because they wear them at school all the time. So
finding the right mask is good advice for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
John and I choose very different masks. We like very different styles. So that's not something that's just for kids. Find the one that you're the most comfortable with.
Kevin likes a Wonder Woman mask. No, but let's talk about that. Is it better if they've got something, let say a character they like or a theme? Does that make it better for them, or do they not care about that?
The 2-year-old, yes, he got excited about having character mask, but the other ones, they're just, they like to express themselves with the mask, but they're okay with what they're comfortable with, and what's breathable. And there's some that they just don't like, and they know which ones they're comfortable with. A lot of it, I mean, the disposable ones I've found on Amazon, they have disposable fun ones, different colors. And I usually have a ton of those. I had like a Halloween set, a Christmas set, and they really enjoy those. So just whatever works for them.
Excellent. So you've got them prepared. We're going to Disney. They're really excited. So anything different or unusual about, say, getting to the airport, getting in the airport, getting on the plane? Anything there that you think, this is different than a usual trip for them?
No, I mean, we did our normal things. We take a shuttle from a parking lot to the airport. It was nice because we had a whole shuttle to ourselves. The airport was not crowded at all. We breezed right through security. We had no issues as far as any difference really in what is typically, the plane was full to Orlando. We didn't have any seats open. We flew Southwest. So everything was pretty normal in the airport.
Excellent. All right. So you get to Orlando. You took Magical Express, you said.
Yes. Magical Express was, the line seemed long. And that was another thing that I had to prepare my kids for. Because I had been in October by myself. And I knew that the lines looked long for everything. And that's just, kids see a line and they panic and they don't want to do it, or they freak out about the line. But that is something that I had told them, especially the older ones who see the line and panic, that these lines are going to look long, but they may not be as long as they look. So, I mean, the wait will, because they've never seen Magical Express backed up like it was, but then it went really fast. And then the bus was, we'd see buses come, they would get excited thinking it was for us, but I'm like, you guys are not filling these to capacity. So you have to kind of be patient for that. And that works with my 11, 9-year-old, 7-year-old. 2-year-old's a little bit more difficult, but he's just used to being on the go. I mean, my older ones are in sports, and he just tags along with us all the time.
So I think you also have something else too going for you. You have kids who have been to Walt Disney World.
Yes.
They know Walt Disney World. They know a lot of what to expect. Oh, there are the dogs. Waiting in line is something they need to, deal with on a regular basis. So that works out good. You're not taking, novices to Walt Disney World. Let me ask you a side question, not related to taking your kids. You did Disney's Magical Express. I know it's something you use a lot on other shows, and it's been mentioned before. Disney's Magical Express is going away as of December 31st, 2021. January 1st, 2022, they will no longer run the complimentary bus service. What do you think your family will do to get to Walt Disney World now?
So what we have found, I really like to take Uber. We have found that Uber has car seats. So there's a specific, when you pull up Uber, you can see where it says Uber with a car seat. The only kid right now that needs to be in the car seat is a 2-year-old. And usually the Uber will only have one car seat. So if you've got 2 kids that are in car seats, it's probably not going to work. But we like to use the Uber with a car seat all the time. That might be what we use, but I have a feeling Mears is going to have a similar to Magical Express type service where you don't have to have car seats. And I think that's probably going to be the best option for families with multiple car seats, because that's going to be the issue. It's not so much finding a ride to the airport. It's going to be car seats. That's a huge, huge advantage to Magical Express, is you don't have to bring one. And that's going to be the biggest obstacle. I hope Mears provides a similar service. And I know it probably won't be up to Disney standards, and there'll probably be complaints or whatever, but it's probably still going to be best because you don't have to lug around a car seat. But Uber with a car seat's another option too.
There's still a lot of questions about what will happen. We've had this discussion that possibly light rail will be in place, and that's why Disney's opted to end their agreement with Mears. You know what? Any smart transportation company is going to take advantage of this and do something. And one of the problems that we see is it's not just car seats. It's people with mobility issues and disabilities and traveling in wheelchairs or scooters. You know, getting in an Uber is difficult. you might have to get special transportation. How much do you know how much it costs you in general with your family to take an Uber from the airport to Disney?
So, if you're just having a small Uber, for it's like $40, but for our family, we have to get the extra large, and it's usually around 80 to 90, and sometimes even more during peak season or peak when it's crowded and there's not a lot of options. It can be almost $100. And then I used to, before Magical Express, I would take taxis all the time, and before Uber, and it was similar. It was about $100 each trip, but.
Availability of transportation is not going to be the issue. It's going to be price, and it's going to be what works for you and your family. All right, so let's move on. So you've gotten on the Magical Express. You guys have gotten to the resort. Did you go right to the resort? Did you go into a park? What did you do when you got here?
So we were there early. So our room wasn't ready. We had bell services hold our luggage, and then we went ahead and went to a park. We didn't actually physically check in on all. We did online check-ins. So we waited for our room assignment on our phone so that we could, and both times that I went with the kids, we just went right back to our room from the parks because we got the text saying our room was ready. We did bus, Skyliner, monorail. I rode it all. Everything was social distance and limited capacity and all the transportation. And the kids never had any issues with that. One thing, I have never been someone who is panicked about my kids touching things, but now this is a whole different ballgame for me. I realize how much they touch stuff. And just, as we're going through the rides or anything, they're just touching everything. And before it would have never even bothered me, but now I'm like, quit touching stuff. So, lots of hand sanitizer was, you have to have your own. Disney House has a lot, but I just went through more hand sanitizer than I ever have in my life, which I think most people are doing.
So what park did you go to? What was the first park you went to?
First trip, it was Animal Kingdom and I think Epcot. So one time it was Epcot, one time it was Animal Kingdom.
Anything park specific that your kids reacted to? Was it, weird that maybe cast members had masks on, or the fact that there weren't character meet and greets? Was there anything that kind of triggered them that said, this doesn't feel like a regular vacation?
No, not really. Of course, the temperature screenings, that's first when you walk up. Then they were excited to see the difference in bag handling. That was quick and an easy process for them. So the older ones were like, well, that was nice. So we didn't have to wait, to get our bags checked. They're used to doing the magic band, put your finger on that. That was a whole different experience. But other than that, really, they're used to people in masks. The cast members having a mask doesn't bother them. As far as inside the park with the character meet and greets, like you said, my kids are they've been several times. So meeting the characters right off is not huge for them, but they enjoyed the cavalcades. We always stopped and watched the different character experiences where they are, you've got Joy frolicking at Epcot. That's something different. So they were excited to see something different than they usually see.
Let me back up just a second too. I should have covered this when we talked pre-trip. Are they aware of park reservations, or is that just mommy takes care of that and we don't really care what park we go to?
No, they weren't. They're not aware of that. That's something I just did. I just tell them, hey, we're going to this park. But they did notice no park hopper. We usually park hop. So that was something which is back now, but they were used to being able to go somewhere later, and that they weren't able to do that. And we are typically not rope droppers. We stay in the park late. And since of course this is different, the parks are closing earlier, we were actually finding ourselves, people think, well, what are we going to do? It's 8:00. Well, you're exhausted by 8:00. By the time you get back in your room, you just hang out, go to sleep. And then we were actually getting up earlier than we usually do. So that was a different experience, is we're not rope droppers, but we were getting in the park earlier than we usually do, which is totally different than some other people. I know they're the opposite. They'll get the parks right when they open.
It's interesting, sort of a different take on it is Kevin and I own Dreams Villas of Orlando, and that's an off property that we rent vacation homes. And one of the things that we found when we were allowed to start taking guests for the first time after the pandemic, the restrictions were lifted, was that folks who had booked longer stays were checking out earlier. Were checking out early than they should have, the end of their reservation. And I was starting to get worried. I'm like, what's wrong? What did we do? Is it not right? Is it not nice? So in checking in with them, I said to them, why are you leaving early and not using your full time? And they said, we found that we were doing everything we wanted to do, but then again at 8 o'clock, there was nothing to do.
Yeah.
You know,
and then everybody goes to Disney Springs, and Disney Springs seems packed. That's something we did notice. That was the only time that I didn't feel unsafe at Disney Springs, but like you said, at 8 o'clock, that's the only place to go. So it seems crowded. And there was a time when I looked around and thought, this just looks normal. It doesn't, not that I was like, oh, there's too many people, and I felt like I was too crowded, but I did look and think, this doesn't look like limited capacity to me. It looks like a normal crowd.
Yeah, Disney Springs is a different animal altogether, especially in weekends and at night for sure. All right, so you've got in the park and you're doing your stuff. Anything that threw the kids for a loop when they sort of saw something or did something that they were like, this is weird?
No, the lines being long always, I mean, I had to convince them several times that it's not as bad as it looks. Just the markers, the separation markers, sometimes they had a hard time on, like just doing that. They would just kind of push up and have to say, come back, respecting the boundaries, I guess, of the markers, of the 6 feet markers. But that was just something they adapted to. Mobile ordering, that became something that was new to them. It was kind of easier sometimes because you weren't up there at the window going, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? We'd already figured it out. One thing we did have is we had 2 different parties. So like the second trip when we went for New Year's, my sister and my mom came and my niece. So I would order from our app, from our account, and they would order from their app. And I'm more familiar with it than they are. So sometimes they would forget to check in, or my sister would check in too early. I mean, that can become an issue, is just mobile ordering and figuring out how to do that. The kids weren't used to not being able to just walk into the Contempo Cafe and buy a drink. Like the baby needed milk, and it's like, you can't just walk in there and do that anymore. It's totally different. You have to do a mobile order. And usually cast members are a little more lenient, or a little, like if you kind of ask like, hey, I just need a milk, they will kind of help you out, not make you have to go through the whole mobile order process. But that's something, mobile ordering was probably something they needed to get used to.
Yeah, when we went to Festival of the Arts, it was interesting because we were snacking around, but at one point we wanted to try the new barbecue place. We hadn't tried it yet. And Kevin's like, oh, let's go get something there. And it's like, no, you can only do it through mobile ordering. So it kind of ruins the spontaneity of some things, but as long as you get used to it and you know about it and do it ahead of time. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
But it also, and I was going to mention that too, is that you can't do that, but you can also, it's less planned out too, because you don't have the fast passes to go to, the times and everything. So the day is kind of less planned, which is nice, because you don't have to run around to each fast pass. You still have dining if you want to make dining reservations, but the day is a little more flexible than with the fast pass reservations.
Did you guys get on every ride they wanted to get on? Was everybody happy with what they were able to do?
Yes, we rode everything, never had really long waits for anything. And that we went New Year's Eve and right after Christmas, which is typically a really bad time to go as far as crowds. But it was nice. No problems at all.
It's awesome. So what do you think the kids' takeaway from this trip was? Kids are really adaptable and really flexible, and they'll go with the punches. Do you think this is just, This is what we
They
have.
want to go. They want to go again, and they're dying to go for spring break. They're pushing me to take them again. So they want to go. Didn't bother them at all. That's my clock. I have a cuckoo clock that plays a Disney song every hour, and it's like early. But
And it's not broken. No one hit it with a bat.
nope. It just plays it. It's always just like 7 minutes early because it's like from Japan, so the directions are in Japanese, and it's hard to reset. So
And the time zone, you know.
yeah, yeah.
7-minute time zone.
So
Did
yeah,
any of them say, I really liked it better the old way? Has there been any kind of discussion of that? Or are they just okay with the changes?
they're totally fine with the changes. And like, and you hear people say, well, what about if this is your first trip? My kids, they go all the time. So they're totally fine with the changes. They know that not having fireworks never bothered them. No nighttime shows. That wasn't something that they missed. We come from a baseball family that we see a pretty good fireworks show every Saturday night. Fireworks are nothing to them. So that didn't bother them, not having the nighttime shows. But if you're a kid that's first time, you don't know what it was like before, and we may never see what it was like before. So we might as well, experience it this way because.
Well,
Go ahead.
I would say the same thing to adults. What if this is your first time? Then you don't know anything different. Go and enjoy what's there. Not don't go looking for what other people have told you was there. Go and enjoy what's being offered. There's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. And it's still a great time. The kids are dying. I mean, I want to go back. We going 2 times in 1 month with us. My kids just were fighting by the second trip, and I was like, I'm not going back with you guys until you can get along. But it was just they want to go back, but they always want to go back.
That fighting and disagreement, that was more about just them not getting along. It wasn't had nothing to do with the environment they were in.
Yeah, it's just my kids and being preteens, and that was another thing. But this is just a normal taking your kids to Disney thing. We did have 2 ends of the spectrum. Like my niece is 2, and my 11-year-old is very preteen. She wants to ride all of the the thrill rides, and then we've got the little ones running to ride the teacups, and that causes issues. But that's just a normal Disney trip.
I have some news for you. I don't think you're unique.
Exactly.
I think anybody who has children with this age range understands exactly what you mean. I can remember conversations. My brother and I are almost 4 years apart, about 3.5. And I can't tell you how many times we were threatened with turning the car around and going home. So, and that was back in the 1800s. So things haven't really changed, okay?
Yep, I know. It's just, why can't you guys get along?
We went to the store last Saturday, and I said the same thing to Kevin. Don't make me turn this car around. He was acting out. What do you want folks to know about bringing their kids to Walt Disney World during this time?
One thing I wanted to talk about is the 2-year-old in the mask. So he didn't wear all the time. I mean, he's supposed to. Over 2, you're supposed to. He's pretty good. But there would be times when he'd take it off. On the plane, he wore it on, but then once he sat down, there'd be times he'd take it off and we'd put it back on. But in times in the stroller where he'd take it off. But usually what we tried to do is anytime he was, in our arms in a line or going onto a ride, make sure he had it on. So that's a big question I get a lot is, the 2-year-old is really hard to keep a mask on, and it is. But Disney, I want to talk about the times that they were really making sure he had a mask on was at the temperature screening. They wanted a mask on for sure. And when he, when we got on rides, if he had brought it down or anything, they'd ask to put it up. So there's times when he would take it off, but we put it back on. But it wasn't horrible. But he also wants to be like his older siblings. So he was, fine with wearing it. He had the fun ones, like I said. But, and then going back to taking a kid, I always say that a 2-year-old, 3-year-old is a great time to go because everything is still so magical. And they just get so excited about characters and everything. If you're going to wait until everything's back to normal, you're going to miss that time frame. And that's my favorite time to take a kid. And I also want to say that we did character meals. We did both Hollywood and Vine and Topolino's. I hated Hollywood and Vine, like horrible food.
Join the
Before
club.
we move on to something else, I read a great piece of advice. I don't have children, so I haven't tried this. But if you've got a 2 or a 3-year-old who is taking their mask off occasionally, someone posted, bring multiple masks and allow them to change. And on the reusable ones, someone even suggested letting them design their own. Take a marker and let them write on the mask. I can't vouch for whether that changes the safety of it, but I thought that was a great idea. If one's not working, maybe they become a superhero.
Yeah.
You know, and people are creative. Just allow them the chance to change it.
Yep.
I have to do that with John.
Right. And that's a good tip in general. Everybody bring several masks, especially in the heat. You get food on them, whatever. Definitely need some backup mask.
I want to go back to your character meals.
Mm-hmm.
You, in my opinion, picked both ends of the spectrum. You picked Hollywood and Vine, which in my opinion is one of the worst restaurants on Disney property. It's absolutely horrible. We've gone back a couple of times in the past to do restaurant reviews, and we've pretty much said, I don't care. Never again are we going back. But you did Topolino's,
Mm-hmm.
which, did you do breakfast?
Yes. Yep.
Which in my opinion is the best.
Yes. And so it was the second time I did it. I did it with the adults and then brought my kids back because I loved it so much. I loved Topolino's. And the character interaction is great. The characters are so cute in their artsy costumes. And I love the location. We went out on the little balcony and saw the view and took pictures. And the food is excellent. And the character interaction's good. They come right, I mean, in distance, but you can get good pictures. The kids were close enough where they were excited. It saw them, recognize them, got excited. And then Hollywood and Vine, I've been when it's a buffet and I could usually find something, but this time it was, you had a specific entree and nobody liked it. And then it was more expensive than Topolino's too, which was like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's crazy. With Topolino's, was there really good distancing with people between tables? Did they do a good job?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there was no one we had a big table because there was 9 of us. So there was really no one around us. Then we were right before the characters kind of went off stage. And so they were right there. And we just got some great pictures with the kids and stuff. So we did have to move. We had to move the kids over to where the characters were posing, because I was kind of sitting there and it was like the kids aren't really getting in the pictures I was. So we moved the kids around so that they would be better placement for kind of where the characters stopped.
That actually brings up something else too. That's different there because you're sitting down and eating, so you can take your masks off. What about pictures in the park? Because a lot of people are upset that they have to keep their masks on for pictures. Did that bother you, or?
No, I actually had someone this week say, "Do you really think Memory Maker is worth it? Because you still have to have the mask for all the pictures, ride photos, everything." And I just think it's something that's going to represent that place and time, the climate that we're in right now. The mask pictures are something to remember.
Yeah, it's funny because when we watch TV and you kind of get an old show or something that's been recorded before and you go, those people are hugging. Or those people are touching, and you think, this is...
Look at how many there are in that room.
Exactly.
Yep, I know. It's weird. Because they were watching YouTube earlier and I was like, is this new? And then I was like, oh, wait, no, there's no... It was Disney. And I was like, no, it's definitely not new. Nobody has a mask on. So you're going to have that moment.
Yeah, and I think you're right. This is going to be one of those things of a time where your kids are going to go back and look at it and go, boy, remember when we had to wear a mask? You know,
Mhm.
It's also like the difference between going in summer and winter. I mean, in winter, you might have on a coat and a scarf. It doesn't really change the memory, you know? It's just a different, you're right, it's just a different time.
it is.
It's a moment in time. Do you understand?
No. Is there anything we missed, Kristen? Anything that you think we should talk about for bringing a kid to Disney during COVID?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all that I had wanted to say.
So I get the feeling, first of all, I think you're the type of person who's also a little more laid back when it
Mhm.
comes to a lot of things.
Right.
But I forgot what my question was going to be. Shoot. Forgot what my question could be. It had to do with the fact of going to Disney now with your kids. You are a Disney fan, you're a Disney fanatic. It's something that you love. Is this the type of thing that, yes, you should go with your kids, or I went because I'm a Disney fan? I'm trying to figure out how to say it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, is this the destination you would choose if you weren't a huge Disney fan? I think that it's definitely still a great experience. So if you are looking to have a Disney experience, this is just the right time, the right age that you want to bring your kids, then you should definitely still do it. And I want to go back, but obviously I'm a Disney fan, and so my kids are too. But I think that, I mean, I have people who are going and they aren't Disney fans, but they still have such a great time, and they are happy with the lines not being horrible. And you see people who panic about no fast passes, but right now they're just not necessarily needed. So I just think that it's definitely a good time to go, especially if you avoid holidays. Like right now, the waits are pretty decent. And the festivals are still going on, and we didn't have any lines at the festivals, and it's a great time.
I think this is going to be one of those things that in the future your kids look back on with fondness, kind of like we do now when we look back at a time when Disney was less crowded and perhaps there was less anxiety about a trip, and you could just go and enjoy it and not worry about fast passes and all that stuff. I think your kids are going to look back in 5 or 6 years and go, remember those trips we took where we got on a ride in 20 minutes and there wasn't that many people in the park? I think it's going to be a great memory.
We're also going to remember that time when no one was going anywhere and my folks took us to Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look back on the times I went to Disney when I was a young teenager, and I realized my folks didn't have the money to do that, but they did it. So I think you get a new perspective as you get older, and I think they're going to look back and think, holy cow, look what they did.
Yeah. I think it's going to be great, great memories for them.
Kristen, I wouldn't expect that for a couple of years, though, okay?
Yes, I'm getting into the teenagers where it's already
If
getting.
you're looking for any kind of credit, I'd wait a little while. Okay?
Yeah.
To the teen years first. Excellent. All right, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yes, you should tell people how to reach Kristen.
Well, during the show, I've put Kristen's email address under her name, but you can still write to Krystin, Krystin,
Yep.
at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and she'd be happy to help you plan your vacation with kids, without kids. She can do it
You
all.
could also write to John or I, and we'll make sure Kristen gets it.
Excellent.
I send Kristen stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I usually think she's probably not happy about that.
Oh, Devin again. Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I think that's it.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your trip. I actually enjoyed it. It was fun to hear about kids going to Disney, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
All right. Thank you guys for participating. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody at home, for listening and watching. We hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great vacation.
Bye.